Greetings, my dear wizards, witches, muggles, and squibs. Today, I'll take you where the air is ratified, and ideas soar higher than a firebolt supreme among the towers of Hogwarts to uncover the brilliance of Rowena Ravenclaw, the sharpest mind of her time, the most visionary of the four founders, and godmother of my house. Rowena was renowned for her keen intelligence, her sharp wit, and her unparalleled ingenuity. Did you know that without a dream of hers, perhaps even a premonition, Hogwarts wouldn't bear the name we all know and love so much today? Hogs and warts. What a strange dream, I must say, dear Rowena. What on earth had you eaten for dinner that night? A hearty steak and kidney pudding served with a side of jellied eels? But don't be fooled by her grace and composure. Rowena was also a woman with a passionate heart and an enigmatic past. It is said that her very wisdom came at a high price, with a destiny marked with loss, ambition, and secrets she guarded fiercely. It's almost like a Shakespearean tragedy played out in Hogwarts. But before we begin, a question. Who's your favorite Ravenclaw? And why, of course, the charming Quentin Pentagram? Let me know in the comments. Come on, mount your brooms. Today we dive into the life and legacy of Rowena, exploring the secrets surrounding the most precious of her relics, Ravenclaw's diadem. A symbol of infinite wisdom, and perhaps the cause of her downfall.
It was in the veiled lands of ancient Caledonia, on the border between the Highlands and the Saxon lands, that, on a night forged by storm, a child destined to shape the history of the wizarding world let out her first cry. Her name was Rowena of the House of Ravenclaw. It did not take long for her mother to recognize in the child's eyes the mark that had distinguished the Ravenclaw line for centuries.
Rowena,
The inner eye.
focus.
To many, a gift.
Our inner eye
To few, a curse.
is a gift.
Rowena was a seer, one gifted with the sight, a rare connection to magic itself, through which images would come to her. At times, as vivid as reality, at others as hazy as the wildest of dreams. They were fragments of the time to come. Young Rowena, tormented by ceaseless visions, most of them cryptic and devoid of any clear logic, even though she was surrounded by witches and wizards of her kind, could not help but feel different from the rest. Alone. None but her mother could truly grasp the whirlwind of emotions Rowena was forced to bear.
Come with me.
It was for this reason that the woman did not hesitate to subject her daughter to a strict and demanding education, one designed not only to help her control and channel the magic of her inner eye, but also to shape her into a skilled and capable witch, an essential requirement for survival in those dark and perilous times. And yet, though her mother, a seer herself, seemed the only one who truly understood her, no matter how much Rowena proved her talent or how hard she tried, it never seemed enough in her mother's eyes. Never a kind word, never a gentle touch. The young witch could not help but wonder, was she even capable of love? But the more young Rowena grew, honing her abilities day by day, the clearer and more coherent her visions became. Among them, one image began to appear in her dreams with increasing frequency, disturbing her sleep with a growing sense of unease. A spray of pale white flowers, the screams of a woman, and finally, blood. Something terrible was about to happen. Rowena knew it. Rowena felt it, deep within her bones.
This feeling.
It was a day like any other, and her mother, just as she often did, was to join the other witches and wizards of the village at the smoldering remains of yet another Muggle battlefield. Their task was to tend to the few survivors, a gesture of compassion perhaps, but also the echo of an ancient and long-forgotten pact, forged in the days when wizards and the non-magical still walked side by side before blood and fear tore them apart forever. For the first time that day,
Rowena.
her mother asked Rowena to join them.
You'll come with us.
Perhaps at last, she believed her to be ready.
It is time.
But things took an unexpected turn. Upon reaching the site of the massacre, amidst the anguished screams and the incoherent mutterings of the wounded, something caught Rowena's eye. A detail seemingly insignificant and yet essential.
Soapwood.
A field of soapwort surrounded the blood-stained earth. Could her vision be coming to pass? Had it been trying to warn her of her mother's death, Rowena should have stopped it. She should have altered the course of events. What purpose did visions of the future serve if the future could not be changed?
Mother, please.
The young witch begged her mother to leave at once, to return to the village, but she refused, ordering Rowena to stay in her place, and even raising her wand, ready to use it if necessary.
You leave me no choice.
It was then, at the height of their heated argument, that Rowena revealed the full extent of her power. With an Expelliarmus of exceptional force, far too exceptional, she disarmed her mother. The emotional surge behind the spell was so strong that it hurled the woman backwards, and she fell, tumbling down the edge of a cliff. Despite her desperation and the swiftness with which she rushed to her mother's side, fate had already cast its dice.
Please.
It was too late.
Wake up.
Yet with the last of her strength, with her final breaths, the woman passed on her most important lesson.
Be strong, Rowena. Cold, detached, logical, but fair. Only then will you be able to control your curse and turn it into a gift. The future is not shown to us so that it may be changed, but so that it may be accepted, as pain, too, must be accepted.
From that day on, Rowena never returned to the village. She knew the time had come to leave, to make amends for her mistakes, to make peace with the past, and to accept both the present moment and the future to come. In doing so, she would honor her mother's final words, words that would stay with her until the very last day of her life.
Thank you, Mother.
The young witch then set off to travel across the British Isles, seeking to expand her magical abilities, and most of all, in search of mentors who could complete her training as a seer. It was during these years of pilgrimage that Rowena met the one who would become her dearest and most trusted friend.
My lady,
A quick tongue, a genuine smile,
you must be hungry.
eyes brimming with the desire to do good. Helga of House Hufflepuff's magical abilities, bolstered by her boundless warmth, touched Rowena's heart in a way that hadn't happened for as long as she could remember.
Brilliant.
Helga's kindness was like sunlight after a long winter.
Rowena.
It didn't take long for the two to become inseparable, bound by a perfect balance.
You smelly thing.
Helga, already a skilled healer even in those early days, could see beyond Rowena's sharp, cynical intellect. She made her laugh, softening the chill that lived within her. To Helga, magic was, above all else, a means of healing, not of control. The two witches, both ambitious, both driven by the desire to better themselves for the good of the wizarding world, and both still hopeful in the face of the widespread bitterness toward Muggles during those dark times, decided to journey together, to protect one another, to learn from each other, and to achieve their goals, together, as friends and sisters. It was said to be during these very years that Rowena came into possession of a long-forgotten heirloom, a diadem of unparalleled beauty, its sapphire gleaming with an otherworldly brilliance.
At last.
The enchantress chose to make it her emblem, imbuing it with her values, and through the purity of the sapphire, enchanting it so that it might enhance the wisdom and intellect of whoever wore it. Just as Helga held dear the enchanted cup passed down through her family, Rowena now had an artifact of her own, the object that would one day be known to all as the Ravenclaw's diadem. The two prodigious witches, whose fame had quickly spread across the Isle, did not yet know that their travels would soon end for something far greater. South of York, they crossed paths with a wizard whose skill with a sword matched his command of magic, Godric Gryffindor. Alone, he was fending off a group of dark magic-wielding bandits, tormenting local villagers, his bravery bordering on madness. Rowena, however, saw another path. With sharp wit, her gift of foresight, and a voice like steel, she ended the clash without casting a single spell.
I have seen it. 2 of you will fall before sunset. 1 shall be strangled in his sleep by his own brother. Another, marked by my gaze, will speak no more. To those who spill innocent blood today, death shall not be denied, but something far worse, oblivion. No one will ever speak your name again. So turn back now, surrender, or vanish into oblivion.
A true prophecy, or a well-crafted bluff. Neither Helga nor Godric ever knew whether Rowena had truly foreseen the future that day. But what mattered
Rowena,
was that it had worked.
that was incredible.
That very night, around the fire,
Indeed.
the three spoke of their visions for the wizarding world.
I wish
Each of them wished to protect it,
we could do more.
to strengthen it, though in vastly different ways. Godric, though initially wary of the witch, found himself drawn to her clarity of thought. Rowena, though critical of his impulsiveness, was struck by his unwavering moral strength.
Gryffindor.
It was Helga who mediated between the two, as she so often would in the years to come.
Want some food?
And so, the now united trio set off for Lundenburg, one of the largest centers of the Anglo-Saxon realm, where they hoped to find other witches and wizards just as eager as they were to make a difference. It was in this context that Godric struck up a friendship with a prodigious parcel-mouth wizard, likely of Irish origin, who had only just returned from years of travel and perilous adventures, eager to offer his gifts to the magical community. His name was Salazar Slytherin, and he would be the first to truly champion the seed of an idea that had begun to take root in Rowena's brilliant mind, a school of magic, a beacon to guide the young witches and wizards of the British Isles so that they might be properly taught, and, in turn, become forces for good within the wizarding world.
Beyond the mist of the Scottish Highlands, a warty boar stared at her with glistening eyes. Rowena couldn't look away. It was an invitation to follow, through trees, over mountains, to the jagged rocks of a cliff, before a vast lake of crystal clear water.
Rowena awoke with a start in the dead of night. The vision had been vivid, clearer than any she'd had in a long time. That was the place. It was there that the school was meant to rise. There that it would rise Hogwarts, school of witchcraft and wizardry. And so, Helga Hufflepuff, Godric Gryffindor, and Salazar Slytherin followed the inner eye of their seer companion. And the moment they arrived at the chosen place, its significance became clear to all. A primordial land, steeped in the purest and most powerful of forces, ancient magic. Such a wellspring of energy was the perfect foundation upon which to build their school. Together, the four of them joined their powers and began to shape brick by brick what would come to be remembered as one of the greatest schools of magic the world has ever known. Rowena infused into the very walls of the castle her vision of a living, shifting stronghold, one that would grow and change with time, forever adapting, forever challenging the minds within. A place of riddles and revelations, crafted to awaken brilliance in those who sought it. She dreamed of a home for the keenest minds, nestled high in the tallest towers, where the air was clear and the stars close enough to touch. It was the year 993 AD, and the epic of Hogwarts was finally beginning. But with it came significant responsibilities. Among them, how would they select which students were worthy of attending Hogwarts? Each of the four founders had a very clear and distinct idea on the matter. For this reason, they agreed that every young witch or wizard with magical ability should be welcomed to the school. However, each student would be placed under the primary guidance and tutelage of one of the four founders, who would select them based on their unique qualities and inclinations. For Rowena, it goes without saying, the selection of her students would be guided by the words that would later be remembered as her personal motto.
Wit beyond measure is man's greatest treasure.
Did you know that exclusive Spellbook Chronicles booklets are now available? Ancient volumes filled with secrets just like the ones hidden in the restricted section. But instead of hiding from Madame Pince, all you need is a click. This Muggle technology is amazing. Each booklet contains one of the most beloved stories from the series, enriched with exclusive images. So, what are you waiting for? Start collecting them all. Your support is invaluable. Not only will you enjoy the magic, but you'll also be supporting the channel, allowing us to keep bringing you the most amazing stories, like the one in this episode. So, enjoy the show.
At the school, the years passed swiftly. Despite occasional disagreements among the founders, the students grew in skill and wisdom. Everything was unfolding just as the four had long hoped. A little more than a decade after Hogwarts was founded, a new student arrived under Rowena's tutelage, a girl upon whose future many hopes were placed. Rowena Ravenclaw, her daughter. No one truly knows what happened, nor how. No one knows who the girl's father was, the lost love of Rowena. Across the centuries, many theories have surfaced, fragmented and speculative. Yet among them, one name returns time and again. Vortigern, a Muggle warlord of Britannia, whose story is woven into Muggle legend. According to the ancient text, Historia Brittonum, Vortigern once loved a pagan woman, so the Muggles believed, by the name of Rowena. Whatever her origins, life at Hogwarts was never easy for Helena. Her mother was demanding, unyielding, severe. From her, excellence was not a hope, it was an expectation. Magical prowess and intellect beyond measure were simply assumed. No one saw her for who she truly was. She was Rowena Ravenclaw's daughter, heir to one of the four founders, child of the most brilliant witch of her age, perhaps of all ages. How could Helena ever be herself, ever grow into her own gifts when she lived beneath such an overwhelming shadow? No one seemed to want to be near her. No one, except for a noble-born Slytherin boy who, despite everything, would have done anything to make her smile. But Helena never saw him.
Leave me alone.
She felt alone, misunderstood. Despite appearances, it was Rowena, more than anyone, who truly understood her daughter.
Helena.
What Helena was going through, she had lived it herself, many years before. I do this for her, she told herself, to make her stronger, to make her wiser than I ever was. But Rowena's ways, however well-intended, only pushed Helena further and further away, until their bond grew cold, delicate, and distant as a thread stretched too thin. Until, just a few years after the girl completed her studies at Hogwarts, that thread finally snapped, for good. Upon waking, Rowena could not believe it. Her composure faltered, her usual poise lost its grace. Someone had stolen her precious diadem. Sadly, asking who the culprit was seemed as foolish as it was unnecessary. The real question was, why? Why, Helena? In despair, Rowena found herself unable to see a way forward, perhaps for the first time since she had been a frightened young girl, cowering beneath her mother's stern gaze.
Rowena.
And then, a vision,
On your feet.
long buried,
Yes.
nearly forgotten after more than 30 years,
Mother.
resurfaced, weaving its way through dreams and nightmares alike. A sea of white blooms, a woman's scream, and blood. Why now? Why did the guilt over her mother's death come knocking once more?
Rowena.
For reasons beyond understanding,
My friend.
her body and her magic began to wither, weakening with each passing day.
Who caused this?
And so, she fell ill. The witch, who chose to keep the theft of the diadem a secret, both to preserve the delicate balance within the school and, more importantly, to protect her daughter, knew she no longer had the strength to embark on a journey of such magnitude. So, she made a decision to entrust the task to a young man Helena's age, a former student of Salazar's, who during his years at Hogwarts had seemed utterly enamored with her. He came from noble blood, and as far as Rowena knew,
Please.
had recently inherited the title of Baron.
Bring her home.
For Helena, anything.
He told her, vowing to bring her daughter back, wherever she might be.
I stole the diadem. I sought to make myself cleverer, more important than my mother. I ran away with it. My mother, they say, never admitted that the diadem was gone, but pretended that she had it still. She concealed her loss, my dreadful betrayal, even from the other founders of Hogwarts. Then my mother fell ill, fatally ill. In spite of my perfidy, she was desperate to see me one more time. She sent a man who had long loved me, though I spurned his advances, to find me. She knew that he would not rest until he had done so.
Ah, there you are, my beloved viewers. Fear not, I'll be quicker than a golden snitch. First of all, I want to thank you all for being here for this episode of the Spellbook Chronicles. And if you think Quentin Pendragon is charming enough to deserve your generous support, you might consider leaving a like. And I highly recommend subscribing to the channel too, clicking the bell icon to make sure you don't miss a single episode. And why not, joining the channel to get priority access to every new video for just a couple of galleons. So, what are you waiting for?
From what we know, the Baron traveled far and wide, chasing every last trace of the girl who seemed to have vanished without a single clue. Eventually, a handful of signs led him to the mountains of Arbanon, the ancient principality known today as Albania. Deep within the heart of a forest, Helena had taken refuge, consumed by grief and regret.
I was angry.
She had acted out of anger, jealousy, and the crushing weight of never having lived up to her mother's expectations. After soft words of comfort, the Baron stepped forward, declaring his love for the young Ravenclaw and begging her to return home with him.
Come with me.
But for Helena, it was far too late.
I cannot.
She could never go back,
It's too late.
least of all with him, for she knew who he truly was beneath that veil of honeyed nobility. A cruel, sadistic, and violent wizard. Rowena awoke in the dead of night, her forehead damp with sweat. A wind-swept field of white soapwort, like snow upon the earth. The screams of a woman, and the blood. At last, she understood, but it was too late. The woman in her vision had never been her mother. It had always been Helena. The man, after stabbing the girl to death, took his own life, unable to bear the weight of what he had done. And from that day on, he would forever be known as the Bloody Baron. Only then did Rowena Ravenclaw, holding in her hands a letter filled with tender words and admiration for the daughter who would never read them, finally understand. Her mistake, just like her mother before her, had been to value the magic of the mind over that of the heart.
Forgive me.
And perhaps it was that very realization that caused the heart of the great witch to quietly fade, one day, into silence. And so, this story comes to an end. But the legacy of Rowena Ravenclaw, her deeds, as well as her mistakes and regrets, lives on to this very day, more vividly than ever. Just like the tale of her treasured diadem, lost and buried beneath the weight of blood and tragedy in a shadowed forest of Albania. Until, nearly 1,000 years later, someone would find it once more. But that, as we know, is another story.
And here we come to the end, my dear intellectuals, or should I say aspiring ones. Rowena Ravenclaw's story reminds us that knowledge is a magnificent gift, often not found in the books we read, but in the questions we dare to ask. By the way, giving your own personal diadem, aka your brain, a good dusting down now and then wouldn't hurt either. Yes, I'm talking to you there, lounging on the couch. Remember, my dear friends, true wisdom isn't just in the answers we seek, but in the courage to face the unknown. This has been yours truly, the ever-charming adventure wizard, Quentin Pendragon, always ready to welcome you on our next, undoubtedly dazzling adventure.